Authorities in Nigeria say more than 100 people have been killed in the floods across the country in the past 2 weeks. Heavy rains have caused the country's two major rivers, the Niger and Benue, to overflow. Dozens of communities have been completely submerged, thousands of people displaced, and vast swathes of farmlands destroyed. Rural areas are the worst hit. The government is urging residents living along waterways to relocate to higher places. It's also considering declaring a state of emergency to free up funding and ensure a more effective response. Nigeria is battered by floods almost every year. Analysts blame it on a lack of proper town planning, blocked waterways and poor drainage. Let's get you the latest on this, and we're joined by our Abuja correspondent Phil Haza. Phil, what's the current situation with the floods there in Nigeria?
Oh, thank you very much. As it stands, reports have it that nearly 100 people or even more have lost their lives and thousands more displaced, especially around the states that are bordered on the River Niger and River Benue rivers, which are the major rivers in Nigeria, as well as the confluence in the center region of the country, which Niger State is positioned at that point if you look at the map of Nigeria. And Niger State, for example, has lost over 40 lives, and then in Jigawa State, which is affected seriously by the River Benue, has lost 2 lives. 2 children were part of the people that died in the state during the weekend. The State Emergency Management Agency actually said the cause of that particular flooding in Jigawa State, for example, was as a result of one of the dams in that area, Tiga Dam in Kano State, was actually released because it was already filled up and there was no warning to ensure that they were prepared for such disaster. Now, Nigeria is actually on a rainy season, a severe rainy season, and experiences flash floods, which are sometimes lethal. Now, in 2012, we had such, the highest in 40 years, where it was disastrous. Close to 363 people died, 2.1 million people were displaced, and agencies are beginning to warn that this might also be leading us to that same kind of period if the government does not do well enough to prevent such disaster from occurring.
All right, so it's not really looking good for Nigerians, Phil. The government has declared these floods a national disaster, but what relief efforts and government response are we seeing so far?
Well, so far in the different states, we are seeing relief materials distributed to the affected communities, the affected citizens and residents. Now, most of the people affected are people that are staying at the shores or riverbanks of these major rivers, especially rural communities where there's hardly any sign of drainage or proper drainage constructed because it's usually densely populated. I've been at one of the communities in the eastern part of Abuja. It borders Abuja State, actually. That's Nasarawa State, where you could see a crowd of people in a settlement, and there's hardly any drainage in those kind of areas. So relief materials are being distributed in Delta State, in the southern part of the region, Anambra State, and then Kogi State up central. We're seeing relief materials, we're seeing emergency services also, and then people are being evacuated to the higher grounds away from those places. There are makeshift camps also being built. From the 2012 disasters, those camps still exist, and then even more are being built to ensure that people are accommodated to prevent this flood.
All right, Phil, thank you very much for that update. Phil Haza live in Abuja.